Hold on. We're calling meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. The first thing is flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First is roll call.
Okay, Ms. Pullenbacher,
Here.
Mr. Chandler.
He's here, promoting him now.
There we go. Okay, Mr. Chandler.
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Schott is absent. Ms. Compatello is absent. Mr. Hof,
Here.
Mr. Oliverio,
Here.
Ms. Patalnik,
Here.
Mayor Perry,
Here.
Solicitor Corbel,
I'm here.
Engineer Keenan is absent tonight, Director Tedesco here, and myself, we do have a quorum.
Great. All right. Next is the consent agenda. So we have the council meeting minutes from May 22nd, along with the bill list from June 12th. Motion, and these were all on the council OneDrive for council to review. So need a motion to approve the June 12th, 2025 consent agenda pending bill list approval by the borough president, manager, and treasurer.
So,
I don't know. I'll take Ms. Bukalnik.
second day.
Okay, Ms. Bollenbacher, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, public comments on agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is the assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Right, we'll go in order here. If your comment is for the end, just let me know. First is Dave Supert. Okay, yes, one up. State your name and address.
Dave Hertzy, 61 Duncan Avenue.
Is it on?
Oh, yeah, you got it. I had put new batteries in it, but I didn't turn it on because it goes down so fast.
Okay, well, good to go. Hey, Dave Saperti, 61 Duncan Avenue. My concern is I'm getting conflicting information from the contractors and the borough engineer about the paving width on Duncan Avenue. The contractor saying they're only going to pave a finished product over the swath that they have dug for the replacement of the storm sewer. And the engineer saying, no, we're going to do full width. And just a point, our street was just paved 4 years ago with new curbing and new sidewalk on the west side. There is some damage created by the contractor on the new curb sections and some of the old. Hoping they will repair those sections also. The inlets that were put in at the intersection of Duncan Avenue and Steuben Street have a very high back on them, 8 inches high, which is not going to blend into the sidewalk or the curbing, which is going to create damage to any vehicle or tripping hazard to people at the crosswalks. I don't know if this was a mistake or not, but if you get a chance, you go out and look at it and you'll see the hazard. Another thing, we don't have proper signage on our street. We approximately have between 125 and 150 units in our, from Steuben Street to Maxwell down to the shopping center and Glen. So approximately we have maybe 200 cars in the area. We experience over 1,000 vehicles during the rush hour cutting through, mainly because of the courtesy light changing to go to Ingram Avenue, they jump lanes. And then instead of going to the light, they cross at Duncan Avenue. So what I would like is some speed bumps put in place and some additional signage. At Glen Street, we have a stop sign with a do not enter sign on the back side, but nothing on the opposite side, and it's sitting too low. When we get a truck or a SUV parked on that corner, you can't see the stop sign. So PennDOT's requirement is minimum height of the bottom of the sign should be 7 feet. Our one-way sign at the intersection of Steuben and Duncan needs to be replaced. I'm sure they will after they get done putting the new ADA ramp in. Other than that, I hope we can, I mean, we get a lot of traffic and majority of the vehicles do a, what do you call it? A drive-by stop, a rolling stop. And we get a lot that don't even stop. And we get a lot of wrong way traffic. And with the construction, that has increased. So I see once they pave that, it's going to be like a raceway. So if we can address that, I mean, I've been on Duncan Avenue for 35 years. And we used to have kids there and we worried all the time, but now most of the kids are gone. But still, we get a lot of foot traffic. People like walking up and down our street. People maintain their yard and people like to walk by and see the landscape. So if we can address that, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave. Do we want to address that during the presentation then, or do you want to address that?
Well, I can address two things right away. I think the reason you got conflicting information from the contractor versus the engineer was there is a decision tonight to potentially pave the whole road, but that's the council has to approve that. So Larry might have been assuming that he thought council might approve it, so he might have said it that way. Hopefully he said it though, that he wasn't, that he was trying to get it done, because he shouldn't have said that it was gonna be done. So, right, because it hadn't been approved yet, but we are looking to do that. And then as far as the signage is concerned, once the paving and everything is done down there, we'll go through and take a good look at all the different signage issues and see what we can remedy. And then as far as the inlets, I'm not aware. I will definitely go down and look at that. I wasn't aware of that. That might have been they might have ordered the wrong one and then put it in anyway. I have no idea. So, yeah.
You can't miss it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, we'll definitely take a look at that. Thank you.
And I'd like to address the rolling stops. We have in the past, on occasions over the last number of months, had some increased patrol there. And I will make sure that they get back around there and spend some time there to see if we can dissuade some of this rolling stops or no stop.
And I forgot to mention one other thing too, was regarding the speeding. We typically we're gonna put up a sensor before we do anything on speeding, just because that tends to have a really nice chilling effect on speeding. We rotate them around the borough. Most of the places we've put them, except for a few exceptions, have been relatively good. Or they had the effect of slowing people down, even when we turn the sign off. I don't know if people know that it still senses, but that's been effective as well. So we'll definitely rotate the sign through there as well, to make sure that, and especially right after it's done, it's a good indicator that just because it's a brand new pave doesn't mean that you can go 50 miles an hour on a 25. So we'll do what we can.
Very good. Next, thank you. Ms. Murphy.
Hi, my name is Faith Murphy. As someone who grew up in
And
the,
your address.
and I live in 107.5 West Steuben Street. As someone who grew up in this community and has personally witnessed what happens when youth lack safety and engaging spaces, I'm urging our leaders and neighbors to take immediate action. Our kids and teenagers deserve better, and it is starting with investing in arts, culture, and recreation accessibility. I attend Carlington, and I know firsthand the impact of having nowhere safe or constructive to go. This isn't a distant issue or a theoretical conversation. It's real, and it's affecting our kids right now. We share the value of protecting and uplifting the next generation, and I am speaking from living experience as someone who's deeply cared about the well-being of our youth. I will never forget the day a classmate walked into the school looking shaken when I asked her what was wrong. She told me about a party the night before that was promoted throughout the school because there was nothing else to do that night. A fight broke loose and someone was stabbed. The people that were the people there were kids, minors, some ran, some recorded, and most had no idea how to handle what was happening. We cannot allow this to be a norm. We cannot keep losing our kids to situations that could have been avoided with safe alternatives. The solution isn't complicated, but it does require commitment. A thriving, safe community needs art, culture, and recreation programs. Creativity expression builds confidence, purpose, and community pride. It also keeps kids engaged in positive activities, community events, and culture celebrations that are free, that teens can actually afford, because Dunkin' Donuts only pays $11 an hour. So free would be great. Public spaces like just, public spaces with free Wi-Fi, because I realized that the Crafton Park has Wi-Fi, but it has a password, and which is really hard because sometimes, we don't always have access to Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi helps us make calls and stuff like that. So just access to free Wi-Fi, because sometimes you have to, if you go in a coffee shop, you have to pay for that. And if you're young, sometimes you can't always pay every time you need Wi-Fi. And getting, college, like getting your stuff done for school, you need Wi-Fi, especially now. So it's like it's just a necessity, I guess, for this new age. Like Wi-Fi is so important. Also, free weekly pop-up shops, like where the community can come together and like just donate free things, like free clothes. I know Carnegie has a free store. I realize that we're the only community that doesn't really have a free store. Even whenever I was living in a more harder off community, they had like a free shop where they would like donate clothes and food and shoes to each other and stuff like that. And I think that can also like stem people donating services, like helping each other learn each other's languages, or just helping them like cleaning up their house or cleaning up certain things, especially because we have a really old community here and a lot of young kids looking for work. But it's hard to bridge that gap whenever we don't really have any way to bridge it. Like there's no way for the older people to talk to the younger people and the younger people to talk to older people. And then whenever we go on the Facebook sites to try to do that, they tell us to stop trying to promote our businesses. And it's really hard because a lot of the kids, we need a market to sell our products, sell our business, sell our services, and they tell us that we can't sell it on the Facebook marketplace. So then when we don't have a business we have this business, but we can't sell it. We don't know the market. And so it's really challenging. But yeah, if we don't act, we risk more than just missing opportunities. We risk more tragedies, more disconnection, and more preventable harm. But if we do invest into our community now, we build a future that is safer, richer, and more united. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Would anybody like to respond or?
Sure, I can make two comments. One is the the Wi-Fi that is currently in the park is only for the pool house. Because when you have public Wi-Fi, you need to ensure that it can handle a significantly increased load. Right now, we might have 10 people on it total at any given time because it's only Crafton employees who are allowed on it. However, this is good timing because in looking at our security systems, one of the things that has come up is adding free Wi-Fi to the park. It's something that a lot of parks do. So we're just looking at costing that out, and this is budget season. So this is something that we could certainly put on the budget for discussion for next year. That's one thing, and I thought I was going to respond. Now I can't remember what my other response was going to be. But so that's being considered, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I think the pop-up shops also and the free store, that is something that the rec board is considering,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, they were considering having, it's not gonna be all the time, but there was going to be like a flea market that we were gonna have later in the season. Pre-holiday, so people could come off, I hate saying offload because it sounds like you're throwing away junk. That's not what I mean. Bring things that you're cleaning out before the winter season. And then it was gonna be free and anybody who wanted to come, it was like a swap meet basically. And then whatever wasn't going to be taken by the end of the day would just be sorted up and donated, was the idea. So, yeah.
I would like to add that at the present time, the library does have free Wi-Fi. So during library hours, there's plenty of free Wi-Fi in the library and around the library.
I think also for the store, the rec board meetings are public. So
Absolutely.
people can I encourage people to go to those meetings too, to get more information about, especially things like the free store, or volunteering for it, or organizing. So those are things that.
Yeah, and the library also has a lot of free events every month. They have, now that I'm on the spot, I'm thinking, actually at Fig Tree every Saturday, there's coffee and community from noon to two, anybody's welcome. They have, you can bring something to do like a book or a puzzle, but they also provide a few things to do. We also have, I'm trying to think what all the library has.
Dinner.
They have a book
yoga.
club, they have yoga every Monday, they have, a cooking book club, if you're at all interested in cooking. They give you the book for the month and then you make something from that cookbook and then you all get together and eat the food and just, chat about the culture and that type of thing. And I'll think of more before I get to my regrets this evening, but I will get more to you.
But
Yeah.
all in all, a very, very good presentation. It discusses a wide range of things that don't make it easy at a council meeting to, address and talk deeply, but certainly encourage you and other friends to connect, either through the rec board or our community and economic development director to continue to push those agendas. Thank you for coming.
If you're
And the school board.
interested, the next rec board meeting will be July 1st, and it'll be in the community room right over here at 7:00. You are more than welcome to come. They're the ones to talk to get things involved in the community for sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Murphy, that was wonderful. Ms. Morris.
Sandy Morris, 1781 Bar Avenue. And I'm here to repeat myself probably again about Perrine Street, the sewer project. So I emailed a few pictures last Friday when we had the substantial downpour, and I think everybody got those. That just shows how quickly that drain will fill up and overflow. As far as I know, no one had any damage, and we were lucky we didn't get the rain that some of our surrounding communities got, because it would have been a lot worse. As I mentioned, most folks have like backflow valves or sump pumps or drain pumps, all of which are great, but they can also fail. I was just thinking about it, and like our backflow drain was put in 20 years ago. So I don't know how long its life expectancy is, but it makes you wonder, am I going to get a foot of sewage in my basement again? Because it's horrible to deal with. And somebody who has drain plugs, if you're not home and you get a bad storm, there's nobody to put the drain plugs in. So, and the power goes out, your sump pump's not going to work. So, basically it's like I've lived there 35 years and my husband's been there even longer. And this has been a problem forever. So I just hope that council doesn't give up on this project. It would be great to have the source of the problem fixed instead of us all trying to manage around a problem that right now can potentially be fixed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Morris. We'll be talking about Perrine today. Ms. Fisher.
Emily Fisher, 1785 Bar Avenue. So I'm going to echo some of what Sandy has already communicated. I appreciate the council's attention to this and also Sandy representing us. I live right outside the drain. It's directly in front of my property. So we saw a big difference, and Sandy's probably communicated this, when the curbs were built up on Perrine Street several years ago. There's a lot of water that flows into that drain, and there's a lot, I mean, even myself, I'm constantly kind of cleaning out the drain just from like debris that flows into it. So I do worry, just like Sandy had echoed, what could happen. I've made some recent investments into my basement, and it definitely scares me, the thought of the damage that something like this could have. And on days when there is a lot of rain, and like Sandy said, we've been pretty lucky this year that there haven't been as many as there have been in the past, but we smell sewer gases in my property. So I just hope that we continue to pursue this project. I think it will, greatly, like Sandy said, help solve the problem versus like some of the dependency on our properties.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Okay, Mr. Kozenko.
Crescenzo, 79 Duncan. Comments are regarding the C20 sewer separation. First off, I would like to recommend council accepts the motion for full width paving on Duncan from Steuben to Maxwell. With the repairs that have been done there with the sewer separation, and the age of the previous paving on that section through there, I think it makes sense to make it a uniform surface rather than introduce a separation for old paving versus new paving, which could cause some issues with wear and tear. Furthermore, I'd like to echo Dave's comments on speeding through that section of Duncan. Jim, I know you had mentioned possibility of putting the sensor up there. We'd definitely like to see that, see if that would help curtail some of the speeding and some of the other issues that we see there. If not, then I would like to see speed bumps put in through that section of Duncan just to try to curtail some of that. And then furthermore, the inlets that were placed on Steuben, they appear to be type C inlets, which are meant for curbs. As Dave said, they are protruding up a pretty significant portion, which, with the curbs that are there on Steuben, most of which are antique and eroded. That's a pretty substantial hazard for traveling public. That would cause significant damage and potentially personal injury. So Jim, I can send you photos that I took yesterday, as well as the RC standards for PennDOT that shows the dimensions. I'm pretty sure they're standard type Cs, but that should be something that's checked into regarding the engineering choice and materials choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? Mr. Wozniak?
Greg Wozniak, 1773 Bar Avenue. As far as like the rain and stuff like that, when they repaved the Rush Alley, there used to be a small sewer in front of a garage back there that was paved over top of. And the person that lives at that property mentioned that it was there and actually marked it so that it would be not covered, and it was covered anyway. And we're told that there was provisions made so water wouldn't rush into the garage or anything like that. So I had the opportunity to take a quick quick video, so I'll just show it to you so you guys have a general idea. So
Is this an automatic video, Greg?
now you have to hit the star above the slide
Oh,
on
I
the left.
Okay,
There's a star.
here we go.
Are you sharing it too?
I am sharing it,
Okay.
yes.
When you
Did I
open
miss
it
it?
up, you have to see that star to the left of the slide.
Left up the slide, up here.
That one, yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Where's? Where was he saying? Oh, is it that's, where is it?
I'll tell you the next
Oh,
video.
oh, okay. Oh, you can see it. Is it that right there? Yeah, you can see the outline.
Now, if you go to the next slide, it's a still shot. That's the sewer for the alley, but about half distance to that garage back there, there used to be a very small inlet that would collect that water and bring it into that sewer, and that was paved over. And so it's no longer collecting the water, and we were told that there were provisions made so that water wouldn't go into those garages, and it's still going in. So
Is that a sewer or a manhole?
No,
cover?
that's a manhole.
Oh.
That's the manhole. But say 5 feet beyond that manhole towards the garage, there used to be a small grate that
Oh.
that came down and tied into that manhole
Right there.
to take care of just that water that was building up. Yeah, right there, right where Mike is kind of putting a cursor. There used to be a grate there that tied into that manhole and took care of that water that was standing in front of that
Okay.
sewer.
Can
And he said in front of that garage.
Can I ask, who told you that there were provisions made?
I think Larry had mentioned that when he said that they spent, because we mentioned it to him, and he said, well, they spent a lot of time in front of that garage, making sure to build that up so nothing would go in there.
Okay,
So
okay.
that was the gist of the conversation. And
Okay.
we had in the fellow that lives there actually had where that small grate was, actually had put sticks and stuff in there so that cars wouldn't fall into it. And then to make it aware that there was a small size drain basin there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
They made
Anyway.
mistakes on this job.
Okay.
so anyway, so
Is the, it shouldn't be Q and A, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask,
what's that?
is the manhole covered or no?
That manhole there?
Yeah.
I have on my phone, water is rushing down the little lift hole in that manhole.
Yeah.
I mean, water's rushing down there like as much as it
Shouldn't,
can
yeah.
take, but the manhole's higher than everything else.
Okay, but it's
That-
not completely covered. by
That
pavement.
that manhole is like it is. The catch basin is totally covered. I don't know if they milled it off and covered over top of it or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, it's probably 8 inches, 8 or 10 inch in it that would at least collect that water.
Okay.
So,
Can probably even look on Google Maps. and see.
so I could probably go through, my kids playing the alley, I could probably find
Yeah.
pictures from
Yeah.
2-3 years ago that would show it, but
Yeah.
anyway. So.
Very good.
So, and the other thing I want to say is the surface of that, I know it's not the quality of the surface that they took up. And I was just, I think we ought to keep an eye on how long that surface is going to last, whether or not we're getting to, a 5-year paving plan, because we went with a lower grade surface we could go with a finer substrate than that. So, but I guess time will tell. We'll keep an eye on it, see what the weather does to it. So,
Thanks. Yeah, they did not put a binder coat on that. That's the typical alley process. But that's assuming lower volume, and that's a pretty high volume road, so that might not be recommended on that street, but we can definitely keep an eye on it and measure how it does over the period.
Okay.
And we'll also
So-
have,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely have, I mean, they made other mistakes. They definitely did, I think they actually milled some, not sewer grates. Well, they might have milled sewer grates now too, but they also did a few, manholes. So we will definitely be getting back with them on that.
Okay, yeah, so it's important to get quickly on those things.
Yep.
Especially in this weather, okay. So let's have a report for the next meeting on where we stand for that. Okay, anybody else? James?
How about traffic? Does that fit in here?
Traffic?
Like, stop signs?
No, yeah, at the end, yeah, that'll be at the end. Anybody else? Okay, anybody online, please raise your hand.
We got one. Debbie?
Okay, Debbie Reagan?
Debbie Reagan. Debbie, you're on?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Hey.
Okay, I wanted to speak also about the paving at Duncan, and I want to agree with Dave and Steve that Duncan needs to have the full width paving. Currently, right now, they did the patch jobs, and some of the patches are not smooth. They have little lips. So when we did get those rains, we had some big puddles that were kind of deep. So hopefully it will be fixed, because if it is not properly paved, those puddles would become too thick and our cars will freeze to the street. That's how deep they are. So I just wanted to support the full pavement of Duncan. That's it. Thank you.
Debbie, where do you live?
Oh, I'm sorry, 84 Duncan.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. Anybody else online? I did have 2 citizens that emailed me. They couldn't make tonight's meeting, but they wanted to mention, so they did give their name, which I'll read. The first one is Richard Sucken. He lives on Duncan, and the address is 67 Duncan Avenue. And he said, I cannot make it to the meeting tomorrow, but I want to send my support to do full width paving from Steuben to Maxwell. Apparently, the project has extra funding to cover it, and it seems like a no-brainer from my standpoint. Thanks for your service to the community. And the other resident is Philip Petrie. And he lives on Duncan also. He says, writing to let you know of my full support for repaving Duncan Avenue. I've been a resident for 28 years and would like to see it restored to its condition prior to the recent work performed. Thanks for your consideration. He's on 65 Duncan Avenue. I also did receive another email, but the person did not leave their name or address, so we can't go through that, but with similar states. All right, President's report. We have a lot on the agenda today, so I don't have a report, other than to also be conscious of there's lots of construction projects that are happening now, but also even more coming. So please be patient. We'll all look beautiful after it's all done. But during that time period, it will be really frustrating and hard in traffic and everything else. Okay, mayor's report.
So I do see that we have a very long agenda, but tonight I'm gonna have to be a little long-winded. I've been getting a lot of inquiries, as has the borough and the department, about the recent heavy police activity we have had here. And I want to unpack some of it and also to make some statements about appropriate communication. So some of you, many of you may know that this started May 18th when we had the report of someone with multiple arrest warrants who had attempted kidnapping one of our residents. And that neighboring communities and the Allegheny Police Department came in to help and to do the search, and were unsuccessful. We had canines and we had drones. That was put on the Crafton Borough Police Department on May 18th. On the 5th, we had an update because there was another sighting, and we had in the areas of Fountain, Promenade, and Woodlawn. Again, canines and drones and mutual aid came in, and the suspect eluded capture at that time as well. Then again, last Saturday, We had a lot of police activity. I had concerns and worries that whether it was ICE here in town, which it was not, I want to say that unequivocally, that the Allegheny County Police Department put out a press release at the conclusion, and I really would like to read that for the record. So on June 7th, Saturday evening at 9:24 p.m., after the incident had been completely wrapped up, the they announced that the Allegheny County Police Department's SWAT team responded to a request for assistance in Crafton. I will say that I had a number of questions about why we had them near the school and on Blacksbridge and near Fig Tree, and many of you who may know our geography, the chief pointed out that that's really the kind of the end of Promenade. So it was an appropriate place for them to be stationed. So at 4:08 on that date, the Allegheny Police Department SWAT team was requested to assist Crafton Police after a known male with multiple felony warrants, and that is that Christian Spirilli that we have been looking for since May, was believed to be inside an apartment on Parkview Street. Upon arrival, it was confirmed a male was inside the apartment, refusing to exit the residence. A short time later, the male ran out the back door of the building. Officers on scene deployed less than lethal munitions and a taser to take the male in custody. The male was taken to an area hospital for evaluation. County police identified the male as 41-year-old Richard Graham. It was determined that Graham was not the initial suspect Crafton police were searching for. However, Graham was found to have multiple outstanding warrants for his arrest in both Pennsylvania and California. In addition to the warrants, county police have charged Graham with multiple charges to include escape and resisting arrest. And what I want to point out again, because of some of the questions that we've had, this arrest is not unrelated to the other search. This transpired at the apartment of the original kidnapping victim that we have been trying to protect. So one of the things that has been of concern is, do we have an increase? But essentially, we have one incident that has had multiple outcomes. And what I want to note really clearly is that once this suspect was taken into custody by the county police department, the case became theirs and is no longer a Crafton police case. So we do not have at this point much ongoing information about this person. But I would also like to make more of a statement about communication during these kinds of incidents. So, as I've said, recent events have prompted concern about the way information is communicated to the public by leadership and the police department, particularly through social media. While timely updates are often necessary, the method, content, and timing of public communications during serious or evolving incidents must be handled with the utmost care. Posting information on social media during a developing situation can jeopardize active operations and officer safety. It can cause panic or confusion among residents. It can fuel misinformation and speculation. It can undermine ongoing investigations and judicial proceedings, and it can violate privacy rights or unintentionally identify individuals involved before due process is allowed. It is especially problematic to publicize arrests related to ongoing investigations before charges are finalized details that could influence potential jurors or taint witness statements, names or images of suspects without due process protections. Premature disclosures can hinder prosecution, invite legal challenges, and damage the reputation of individuals who may ultimately be found innocent. While our roles as leaders include ensuring transparency and maintaining public trust, it is equally our duty to uphold the integrity of our investigations, the fairness of legal proceedings, the safety and constitutional rights of all involved. We must have a clear separation between public relations and public safety communications. We owe it to our residents to be informative, but never at the expense of justice, safety, or fairness. Let us commit to a communication strategy that respects due process, protects the integrity of our institutions, and ensures clarity during crisis, not confusion, and that most importantly, protects our officers. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Solicitor's report.
Just one quick item, just want to announce that on May 29th, council held an executive session to discuss property matters and to obtain legal advice of the solicitor. And that's the end of my report.
All right, engineers reports. Mr. Keenan isn't here. Mr. Price.
Yep, I will take over. Could you pull that up? Great. All right, what you're seeing on the screen right now is a summary of the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project. We have not discussed this in any depth for a while, so I'm going to refresh everyone's memory about what this is. Those are the streets that are affected. You can see Crafton Boulevard all the way up Broadhead, all of the connecting streets starting at Warren, and then Park and Coulter. And then Rebecca is not highlighted on this list, but I'll mention why in a second. And then you see Belvedere, Cornell, small portions of Linwood, and then North Emily Street. And you can see those during the project, there was a lot of back and forth and discussion about how do we get the most out of the improvements with and we tried to protect as many brick streets as we could. And you can see that we were able with trench restoration to protect Cornell, part of North Linwood, and North Emily. And that is a list of what is happening on each street based on the base bid, which is the project that went out to bid a little over a month ago, and we now have the results for. You can see Crafton Boulevard is mill and overlay, Broadhead is mill and overlay, Warren Street is full reconstruction, and these decisions were made based on advice of the engineers. For example, Warren Street has very low carbs. It was very difficult to do this without doing full reconstruction, which is why we did that. And I'm not going to go down every one on the list, but that is what that is. This is a list of the base bids for the improvements. All of these roads are having storm sewers added to them. This is a part of a separation project. And that's why we're redoing many of these roads. And the nice thing is that when we filed this with Alcosan, they approved many of these costs. They now don't approve these costs. So we're able to get more than we would have otherwise had we waited longer to apply for this project for funding. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll update everybody on what we got back in the bid package. And I don't know if you can move the box with the actually down bottom left would be good. There you go. Thank you. And so we received the base bid. You can see the low base bid is in dark blue down towards the bottom. That is $5.582 million. That is for all of that list of things that you saw on the first page. It's also, if you go to the middle column in this page where it says base bid work, those are all the base bids, full reconstruction, mill and overlay, and those are the specifics for each. And then you can see, as I mentioned on the other slide, that no work was being done on Rebecca Street. Well, we also got to add alternates with all of these. We thought that it's possible that these bids might come back and leave us a little room to add some work. And it did, thankfully. And we are able to, it looks like we're gonna be able to add all of the alternates. And with all of the alternates, now the price of the project goes to $6.15 million. And those are all the things that you see in bold, and then the cost related to those in bold next to it. So for Belvedere, we're able to do full sidewalks. For Coulter, now we're able to do full reconstruction of the entire street, which is nice because that was a mill and overlaid street, meaning that it had bricks underneath. It doesn't do very well. As you can see, it was asphalt over brick. A few of them we didn't ask for add alternates, so those aren't included. And then sidewalks on Park, mill and overlay on Rebecca, which was not going to get done at all. And we're able to add brand new sidewalks as well to Warren Street, all for the total of $571,000. And if you add that into the base bid and the engineering cost, that brings the total project cost with this bid to $6.79 million. And you can see on the on the right, that the total grant funding award was $6.748 million. So this should only cost the borough about $1,000 for a $7 million, almost a $7 million project. I want to mention one discrepancy too between what's in the agenda and what's on this slide. The Alcoasand Grow grant in the agenda, I had listed it at 3.74 million, and that's the total Grow grant. Because part of this project used to be lumped together with Perrine Street. So that's the difference there. That's why the actual number really is 3.458 million for Broadhead. The other money is for Perrine, and we'll get to that in a minute when we discuss Perrine after this. And we did not put a recommendation on today to accept this bid today because when we published this, we had not yet confirmed that all of this work can be attributed to grants. We now have confirmed that. So we can do that motion next meeting. We could do it today, but I think it's probably best just to wait until we have an official motion on the agenda. Any questions about that before I move on?
So basically, what we thought originally was that we would only be able to do the things with the base bid, and I thought we were also using bond money to supplement it.
A little, I think.
Yeah, and now, based on the bids that we got, the lowest bid, being the 5.5, allows us to add all the things that we had hoped to add in the original bid, which we had and we had taken out because of the smaller grant money. We can add all of those back in and have no taxpayer money except for maybe $1,000 from the bond being put towards this project.
Right.
So it would be 100% grant funded. That is huge news because this project has probably been the term of my entire time here and probably kind of let it. But that is very, very big. So any questions from council?
I will note one other thing too, that when this gets started, if it's accepted next time, it's a 14-month project.
Yeah.
So it is a significant project that'll be going on for a while. So
Back to my comment, which was this will be painful, but grant funded pain.
Exactly, painful, but let's all remember.
Yes.
It's feeling
Remember.
right now.
Yeah.
It's feeling pain.
So when everybody comes in, it's going to be pain.
I don't have any questions, but this is awesome.
yeah.
So if the public does, you can obviously say them at the end of tonight's meeting or the next meeting. Right, but good information.
All right.
No more slides?
I do have actually, the next slide is Perrine Street, so we might as well just move into that since that's the next item on the agenda. This is several of the, thank you, Sandy, for your comments. And I forget your name, I'm sorry.
Fisher.
Thank you, Emily, thank you for your comments as well. This is the area of the project. You can see the green outline is the potential drainage area for this. It is essentially, this project is what it's doing is essentially removing, I think there are 4 combined sewer outlets or combined sewer inlets at the bottom of those streets. The project will be removing them out of the combined sewer and adding separate storm sewers for those, and then running those. And if you want to move to the next slide, You'll get an idea of where that water is being drained to. There is already an existing water course about halfway down the hill. And naturally water already goes down that course. This would be adding storm sewer piping about halfway into that property and then leaving it off where that water source becomes more steady and more regular. And if you want to go to the next slide, we want to talk about cost and what's been done to date and what has happened. So as I mentioned in the last slide, this project was combined with the Broadhead project for most of its life. And then only recently, when we realized that this might take longer to get permissions ready for this, that we decided to separate it. And so the total construction estimate, now this has fluctuated because the design has changed several times, is now at $418,000 total, with an engineering cost of about $42,000. You can see already spent to date. Engineering tends to be upfront. 20,000 of that has already been spent on engineering with all of the designs and the work. And there's been a legal effort as well, because that we have to get permission from that property owner to do this. So we're working through that. And then we most likely will have to provide some funding for an easement. The estimates have ranged on that, but I put $2,000 because it's a pretty safe number based on what the original estimates we got. So the assumption is that this project in total will cost about $468,000, including engineering costs to the borough. As part of the Broadhead project, there's about $280,000 that was dedicated to this based on their math. And so the ultimate borough cost of this will be $188,369. But if you look at it and combined with this, both of these projects together have been looked at across the board. This is the total cost for both of the projects is 188. And we were definitely anticipating a much larger cost than that initially. And we have continued to move forward with at least exploring the process. So I have reached out to Councilwoman Kale Smith. Have not gotten a return email from her yet. Usually it takes a couple days, but she's usually pretty consistent about returning. And then once we have to file a resolution with the city to allow for an eminent domain process to allow us to build that pipe across that property. We are still in the process of doing that. We'd like to move forward, but we just want to get council's approval to do so.
And can you explain why you have to talk to the city?
Sure. Anytime you're,
Can you go back?
the property that we're running this through is actually, if you see the little red line going straight down on the left-hand side there, that's actually the borough limit. And the same line runs along Perrine Street. It's a little fainter, it's a little harder to see, but so that whole red area where a good portion of this project is actually happening in the city of Pittsburgh on that property. So we have to get permission to do that.
And it's private property, so you have to work with the property owner.
We have to work with the property owner, but to do eminent domain in the city, we have to have permission of the state. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So they have to pass a resolution in their council, which we are actively now working on.
And it's not taking the property, it's just taking an easement or the right to access the property for the project and for ongoing maintenance. So it's not, these things cost, single digit thousands typically, so.
The estimated, and I have the estimated cost on the other slide. If you go to that for even the legal process, is probably around 5,500 total.
Can I ask a question about when you're talking about the piping? So you're gonna have stormwater that's gonna run down the pipe going down the hill.
Correct.
And then what happens? Is it just gonna come out somewhere?
It comes out into basically what is already a stream. So
Okay, so it's gonna go all the way to the stream because that's a really, really awful place there with with issues with the run there.
Yeah, they actually, it will get a good portion of the way down to where the run actually tends to have water a lot most of the time.
Okay,
It's a little above where it has water all of the time,
right.
but there'll be riprap and some construction there to slow it down as it comes out of the pipe. And then we'll just run into that.
So essentially, we may be able to, by doing that, we may actually improve the existing condition.
I'm not gonna say no, I don't, I do not know that.
Sorry.
Yeah. Not an engineer and I don't wanna.
Okay.
So
Of course.
The green are our current sewer?
No, the green is what's called a sewer shed. So the water that is feeding into the project area will come from that whole area. If you've been up on like from Starrett, it basically slowly
Yeah.
slants down. And that is that whole catch basin area that actually, and if I could have, and I almost did this, was draw the image of where Crafton Boulevard separation project worked. Because it basically takes all the water from Starrett Street up and from Middle Ave up. And that is captured on Crafton Boulevard separation project that has already occurred, so that's already been separated. And then down below, that falls into the city of Pittsburgh's watershed. So that is the last little piece of the watershed that the borough manages and controls.
That's the
and
portion, it's the split, is it the split one, C something?
yeah, it's like C 39J or something, and that's the outfall is what he's talking about is the outfall that Alcoasand manages is called C 39J. And then that goes down eventually into Bell's Run, and Bell's Run runs into Chartiers Creek.
So by doing this, would this eliminate Ms. Morris's problem?
It should, and again, not being an engineer,
Yeah.
but yes, because the problem that they're having is stormwater trying to get into a combined sewer system.
Mhm.
That is,
So it will be,
right, it should, again,
yeah.
not an engineer, but yes, it ideally should fix that problem. Yeah.
So I think for our next meeting, it would be good to see where the storm sewers are splitting and how it would actually flow and work. And I think,
Yep.
Gateway has that already as a
Yep.
couple years ago, just to see how the flow would work and where they all drain and what this project would actually do.
Yep.
Any questions from council?
I think I'd like to ask for a motion to approve or to keep moving forward this project, so to get general approval that we're moving forward with this.
But to approve the project or to move forward?
To
with-
keep moving forward with the work to get the resolution passed
Oh,
with the city and get the permission so that we're actually actively moving forward on the project. I mean, we have been, but I want to, get
It's
it.
not a motion, but just
It's fine.
Yeah,
a nod.
There's no objections.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
no objections. No. All right.
Colton,
And I'm guessing
Oh,
Colton
and-
is nodding his head as well.
I'm assuming. Yep.
he's on the,
Virtual.
he's on the project for
Okay.
the infrastructure committee.
Yeah, so he's reviewed this more often.
All right, so our
Okay.
next, so we'll have more for our next meeting on this one.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The next thing on my list is Ewing Road. We did receive updated estimates for additional options. We're still seeking some feedback from folks that will be related to the project, property owners and whatnot, before we can move forward with really a public discussion about what are the possibilities here and what are the costs and what are the ramifications and all that. And we do anticipate probably putting out a public survey related to this because there are several very diverse options to solve this problem. And I'm sure there's different parties that are gonna have different thoughts about that, so that's the update there. The next update is the C20 sewer separation project, which we've talked about a little bit tonight, and thank you for all the comments at the beginning of this. The project is scheduled to move work onto South Linden Avenue beginning on June 10th with temporary road closings and it's scheduled to take 26 working days, weather permitting. This means that there'll be two sections that will be closed on South Linden, one for 2 weeks and one for another 2 weeks. South Linden will be open for traffic at the end of each day, and then Mill and Pave will be scheduled for mid-June. And this is including Duncan Street and Steuben intersection and the Steuben Street up to Crafton Park. In addition, night work is expected, and we're just going to keep reminding people of this because we know it's not fun to deal with night work, but it does dramatically speed the project along. So we understand the frustration with it. Night work is expected in July on Steuben Street from Linden intersection to West Crafton. Night work on high volume roads, as I mentioned, significantly reduces the time. And then project impacted roads include Steuben Street, Linden Ave, Maxwell to Steuben, and Duncan Avenue. And the overall expected completion date of this project again is November 12th. And then as we talked about in the comment section, there is an opportunity to completely restore paving along Duncan Avenue from curb to curb. PA American Water will be covering the cost of the asphalt restoration from their repair laterals and the areas in between. This means that we're able to take that money and give it to Tedesco to cover the cost of paving this entirely. If we do accept to do that, it will cost the borough about $17,250 to pave from curb to curb, which is quite a bit cheaper than it would have cost if we just had to repave that lane ourselves. And so there are contracted items that are expected to be not be used, so that will save us money. In addition, I want to remind council that this project came in at $80,000 less than what was initially anticipated. In addition, we didn't have to do an entire other project, so there is funding available to make this. And I'd like to recommend that we do take this up and do this work. In addition, I want to mention that I sent council an email today, if hopefully some of you had a chance to read it, is doing additional work as well as part of this. We can just put it into this contract, which would be doing about $15,000 worth of paving, primarily on, and this is really just larger scale pothole fixing on Crafton Boulevard, which gets, I don't think it gets quite 10,000 cars a day, but it does get quite a few. So it's a very well-traveled road, and it does have some serious cracking issues and pothole issues. But since they're already mobilized for this work, it would be very easy to tack on additional work. And we estimate that cost will be around $15,000, but we have to get it essentially approved tonight. And since this is an addition, we can ratify this vote at the next meeting, but I want to have council consider both those options, which would have to be approved tonight to get this price. So with that, I'd like to get a motion to approve paving the additional areas mentioned above along Duncan beyond the contracted trench width and within the work area between Maxwell Street and Steuben Street, including an area total 750 square yards at the estimated cost of $17,250. So this is just for that first piece, the Duncan Avenue piece.
So moved.
Ms. Ballenbacher,
Second.
Ms. Bukownik, questions or discussion?
You mentioned it would have to be approved tonight. Can you explain the sense of urgency?
The fact that the vendor will already be there with equipment. And so
this paving would be happening.
Basically the company Tedesco that's already there under contract it's basically a change order for their work. They would do the work on Duncan. And then after they were finished doing the paving on Duncan, they would just go over and do Crafton Avenue since they're here and mobilized. And it's a relatively million paving takes, you can do that. You could do those potholes in less than a day. So it's a fairly quick process, but if we had to bid it out or do telephonic bids, it'd probably be significantly more expensive because they wouldn't be mobilized.
When is Duncan scheduled to be milled and paved?
I think, is it listed in there? It's scheduled to be done, I think, after the Linden work is done. So after that 26 days. And so, but I think he actually said that they're paving
Mid-June.
Mid-June is what it
mid-June.
said,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's what it is, mid-June. Thank
So
you. I didn't have the dates
okay.
on me, but he gave me more specific dates on my email and I just don't remember. I think they were Thursday of next week, I think is the.
So there is a sense of urgency being that this work would be happening before the next council meeting, correct?
That's the sense of it.
Second question, you mentioned that this project came in roughly 80,000 less than originally budgeted. How much of that 80,000 less budgeted amount was grant offset and how much was borough funded?
This is all borough funded. This portion is all borough funded because this shows you the difference between Broadhead and this. Broadhead covered some of that. They're now not covering any of that. So all of this is borough funded.
Got it.
Yep. And I will mention though, there has been a cost to that because of the state of the road. Public Works has probably patched those potholes 4 times each. And that's what happens when you have a deteriorating pothole. It just keeps getting bigger. And so they have to patch more. And we have to pay every time I think the hot pots cost like $3,000 or $4,000 to fill. So now every time you're going up there and doing it, you're filling it. So we are incurring costs not having it done. So there's that as well.
Okay.
So for Duncan, a portion of it's being paid for the full paving by PA American Water because of the,
Yeah, correct.
because of what they did prior to that. And then the 17,000 is the balance. So PA American Water is paying a portion and then we're paying the balance.
Correct.
So the total, do we have the total
I
cost?
do not have the total cost in front of me now.
Okay.
What was the estimate that did you have an idea, an estimate for Crafton Boulevard?
Yeah, the
Roughly?
estimate for fixing the potholes, $15,000. It's an
So-
additional 15, so it's, if you include that as well, you're talking 22,000.
So we're about 80,000,
32,000.
about 80,000 under what we budgeted for for this,
Correct,
not including Crafton Boulevard, but we're about 80,000 under.
correct,
And collectively, might be spending, I'm gonna round up and just say about 35,000.
correct.
So we're
If we do
still,
both.
if we do both.
Yeah, this
So
right
we're
now is,
still under,
Yeah.
and that was what was in the budget.
Correct.
Okay.
so right now it's for the 17,250 for Duncan. That's what's on there.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
Did we get a second? I don't know that we got a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. See? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
All right. And can I get a motion for the $15,000 for Crafton Boulevard?
So moved.
Ms. Polkownik,
Second.
okay, Ms. Bowenbacher. So discussion on this. This is the 15,000 for the patch, I guess, what?
Large patches, yeah, they would be curb to curb and a little bit beyond the length of the cracking on the sidewalk and on the so there are several large square patches.
This is the backbone portion of Crafton Boulevard.
That's correct. That's exactly correct.
When we do this, if we do this, I'm assuming you have nice, fresh paved roads, speed would be an issue. Is there anything to take into consideration with that, or it's still just?
Well, John can tell you about that.
Yeah. So Crafton Boulevard is a little bit different because it is only 15 miles per hour, which is posted. It does have two speed bumps on there and it's kind of hard to go fast on that road. I just drove it today to check out the patches. They're not bad, like they're not horrible because it's a one-way street. You basically, your car, the wheels are on the side. Sometimes you have to move around. They could also slow traffic down a little bit by having them still there. So I think, in my mind on this, it's 15,000 from a budget standpoint. I'd like to see like, where is that coming from? Because it's not a complete urgent need. And if we would look at it also with our road paving for next year, would it fit into there? And can it wait? I just want to be conscious. We have a lot of projects. We may have change orders coming in some of those projects. That always can happen. And I just want to be really budget conscious on this one.
Do you have any idea how many times Public Works has had to patch these holes? Because the photos looked, just from the photos you shared, which I appreciated, whether you or Larry did, they looked pretty significant. So how many times have they been up there already?
I heard 3 or 4 times. I didn't look into it specifically.
Okay.
I could have, it would be difficult to go back and pull the billing because when I get a bill for the like the patchwork that they do, and it's generally not specific to what patches they do. They get a hot box, they go out and do the patching. So I don't know exactly how many times. That's just based on what Larry told me, which was 3 to 4 times. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we do not have an idea of what a budget would be if we did not do this together. Like if this was a separate thing,
I don't.
we have no idea what the cost difference would be.
No, I don't. There's mobilization cost typically adds $5,000 to $10,000 to projects like this. So on a small project like this, the cost might be precisely higher because of that. We didn't do an assessment of that. I got this information yesterday and we put it on here today, so. Yep.
Do we have any idea about the daily traffic in
Count,
that area? Yes.
I do think it's probably above 6,000 vehicles a day. Steuben gets 12.
Mhm.
So it is quite, it is a very well trafficked, but I don't have the exact number.
Yeah, I know we we hear a lot of complaints about those potholes.
We do get a lot of complaints and that's probably the most regularly filled potholes at this point. I mean, you can see the cracking in the street moving outward and that's what happens. You patch one, then the next row of cracking happens and then you patch it and then the next row of cracking happens. And that's what's been happening. That's why they're getting fairly large. But
So, the question is, I mean, I understand what John is saying about next year's paving budget, but it's like, what's winter gonna bring?
What are the costs gonna do?
All right, well, what are the costs gonna be next year? Exactly.
So we're talking about Duncan, because that's obviously tied to this, and that's because that milling and paving is happening in the
Right.
next several weeks.
right.
Are there any other pavings that are occurring as a part of this project within several more months that we could possibly re-explore this opportunity then, so we don't have to make a rush decision?
I think you just pointed out, can you actually bring up the slide? I think that I had not even thought of this. And I'm gonna be embarrassed to say this, but if you bring up the first one, Broadhead is paving this.
Oh, there we go.
Never mind. Scratch. Yeah, they're already paving it, and if part of that, and if part of those potholes are up further, then we'll just do it as part of that project.
What a beautiful solution.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're actually.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I didn't notice that.
The majority
So
are
right now-
behind.
But you noticed
Can I
it.
talk through
I
it?
did, well, we caught it in time before we made a silly decision. Okay, thank you.
So there is a motion on the table right now.
No, I think
I just think he
We didn't
asked for a
vote.
motion, but.
I asked for a motion. Oh, no,
Oh, yeah.
they did first. And
Yeah,
Is it?
first and second. So, yeah. Then
You can, yeah.
retracting, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
feel like we just saved money.
Yeah, just stay $15,000. You're welcome.
Good. That was gonna be my question. I was like, is there anything you can do for broadband? So we would have got there.
All right.
We would have got there.
All right.
All right.
Awesome.
Glad that we talked that out for a while. All right, the next thing on my agenda, the DPW building, the initial pay applications have been received and will be used towards the first grant and reimbursement. So we did have a $200,000 grant with the county that is will be recouping some of the initial costs of this project. And they will be starting next week. So it'll finally be happening, the DPW. All right, any questions on that before I move on? The next thing, the Steuben Linden intersection improvements, the new traffic lights and signals have been switched over. There still is a signal pole in the corner that remains, and we're waiting to hear back on when that will get removed. And the grant reimbursement request has been submitted and verified, so that means that we will be getting our money, and that's great. The next thing on my list, if there's no questions on that, is Linwood and Noble Parks. Both Linwood and Noble Park are currently in the design stage. We have not moved much on that. We've had a lot of focus on first the storm and then the pool. And we did have, and I do want to update folks, we did have some issues with the pool where we had to do some work before it opened. We also had very cold weather, which thankfully made it a little easier to get that work done. We're continuing to struggle with the nightmare of a floor. That is the pool house floor. We got some material down prior to it opening, but it did not hold like we wanted it to. There are several possible reasons. We're considering other options at this point. So we did go back to using some mats for the pool, and we're considering what we can do moving forward. We might have to, frankly, what we should have done in the first place, but hindsight is 2020, which is probably just leaving it a rough concrete floor and not doing anything beyond that. But that's not what happened. So we are figuring out what to do with that and moving forward. So I just want to give while I was thinking about it, giving everybody an update on that.
I interrupt and ask you to go
Yes.
back
Yep.
to the traffic lights at Steuben and Linden.
Yes.
I did notice that there were some questions about why the big switch box is so close to a street.
Oh, good question. I don't have an answer for that, but I can look into that.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, moving forward, Brick Road assessment planning has begun. And site visits will be happening to borough streets and will begin later this month. This process will take several months. It's really a hand driven process, so we will update those as we get some updates on that process. And then road paving as a part of Broadhead, we shared all that earlier and what will be happening additionally, so that has already been shared. No need to go into that in any additional depth. Permit applications have been received. You'll see that list there. So all those different cuts will be happening in those areas in the coming weeks. So those are the utility repairs that will be happening. So that concludes my engineer's report. And now on to the my manager's report. The Trail Study Committee, we are having a public engagement session on 23rd, so please come stop by. We also do have, that's on 23rd, 6 p.m. in the community center. We'll be doing a presentation about the 2 trails that are being considered and potential alignments. Mainly how to make them ADA compliant and usable by anybody who wants to use them. And there's also a survey available. Please take that survey. We've already had, I think, 140 people or so take that survey. And that is on the website at craftonborough.com/trails. There's also a place to sign up for the public engagement on that same page. So please do so. Next,
Do people have to sign up for the public?
you don't, but
Or they can come
you can come in anyway, but we just put it there so that if we do order drinks or food or anything, that we can have a little bit of knowledge of how many people might come.
And is it going to be Zoom or in person?
This one, it will be, we're considering doing a hybrid option. And it will be a presentation and then questions afterwards. And then there'll be signage around like poster boards and whatnot where you can put comments on them. And that will be scattered around the room. Relatively short presentation, probably be a half an hour at most.
So presentation, Q&A, post like an open house.
Like an open house. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it seems like, more conversation and questions and answers maybe than the presentation itself.
Yeah, well, and the presentation and Q&A will probably be 45 minutes tops. It's really more about the conversation
Yeah.
around the room and getting post-it notes about the things that you're specifically interested in and whatnot. Yep. Next thing on the list, the Safe Streets for All grant. We do not have to do a resolution. We did one last time, learned that we actually did not have to do that after the fact. But confirming with Carnegie, the last person I have to confirm with, and then we will be reapplying for that. We were told essentially the last time that we just got in late compared to what the budget was. And we do hope this year that we'll have a better chance of getting funding through that program.
So will we have the application in by that deadline?
Yeah, we'll have it. Because we don't need to do any resolutions or anything. The next item on the list is the rental inspection resolution. And I forgot to bring my, I don't know if anybody, could you print up? No, the memo. Nobody bring the memo with them? No. I got the print memo. You did have the printed, perfect. Thank you. I realized I was focused on the Green Street stuff today. Thank you. So this is an adoption of the resolution 2509, which establishes the general fees and costs and charges and expenses for everything that the borough does, from pool entry fees to inspections. But the only thing that's changing in this version of that resolution is the rental inspection fees. And the memo that you were provided has current, the rental inspection fees are $60. We did an assessment. We figured that probably the best case we could do is lower it and keep within what the state recommends or requires, which is that you cover the cost of the inspection with the fee. Is $55 for the rental inspection. A follow-up inspection will be free, but third inspections, meaning that you didn't do what was asked in the first inspection, the third inspection will be $50. And then we do give a discount. We're recommending offering a discount for bulk inspection. So if you do have more than 5 units in one building, we will do those for $45. Landlord registration will be free. It continues to be free, but we are going to start, because of the new rental ordinance, start charging a late fee if you do not register within 30 days of your 3-year anniversary. So that will be a $20 late fee. I might have that wrong. Is that I don't remember whether that's an annual.
It's actually an annual.
Thank you. I thought, once I said it out loud, I realized I might have that wrong. So that is every year they're supposed to re-register. And that allows us the opportunity to make sure we capture those EIT taxes. Because that person will have to register who's in their apartment, who's in their unit. So that will help us capture some of that. And then so that's why we're offering a $20 fee if you're late, because that really does hurt the borough. And then home transfers, since we lowered the rental inspection fees, we're recommending also lowering the home transfer fee as well to $55. Same as above, follow-up inspection is free, but third inspections are $50. And then for the business only rental inspections, there is a $10 annual fee, but that's for any business in the borough. So that's the recommended changes in that resolution. And if there are no questions, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt resolution 2025-09, establishing a general schedule of fees, costs, charges, and expenses pursuant to the updated rental inspection ordinance.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Ho,
Second.
Ms. Bukownik, second. Questions?
I have a bunch. First off, I'm gonna work my way backwards here. The registration. So the landlord registration, how is that the same date for every landlord in the borough, or is it a date that's predicated on the previous registration date? How is that managed? How are they notified? Do they receive notification that it is due on a certain date so we know when 30 days have passed?
Mike, if you want to address
Yes,
that.
it's early year. I want to say the deadline's in February. I don't recall precisely the deadline. But yes, annually, there'll be a portal on the website. We'll send reminders. So this first batch of registrations, because the ordinance is new, DJ is working on a mailer to all property owners because we don't know who has rentals. So we're sending it to all property owners with a QR code to get registered within the portal digitally. And then we'll establish the annual registration routine. So registration is free.
But again, the date is the same for all landlords.
Correct.
In the borough, so
Correct.
it's easy to track if somebody didn't, okay. Curious about the thought process behind the follow-up inspection versus the third inspection, and not so much the follow-up, because a follow-up inspection being free or being included in the first inspection is pretty standard practice among other boroughs, but I'm curious why the third inspection would be less expensive than the first initial inspection. Does it not involve the same amount of time and resources?
Probably not, because you're already inspecting a house or a unit that has already been inspected, so they have knowledge of what has existed in the past. Also, you're not filing the initial paperwork. You already have all the information in there. There's already a situation. So generally, yes, it should be a little bit easier to do that one. That's why we anticipated making it lower.
For the third one, I'll jump in really quick. The inspector will know precisely what he's inspecting for that third one, so he'll just make a beeline for it.
Got it, okay. So it's like it's the re-inspection, but yes, for people that didn't.
Yeah, in addition to that, when you do that first inspection and whatever they find in that first inspection, you cannot the inspector is not allowed to add things at the next inspection, even if they find them. They can mention them, but they can't be a part of, their official requirement because they didn't catch it in the first time. Now, they might advise the person, obviously, if it's a safety issue or whatnot, but.
So I don't want to get hung up on language here, but being that it says third inspection, should it be subsequent inspections? Because if they fail the third, then there is a fourth and we don't have a way to indicate that.
Yep, that might be we could change that language. Is there a legal language that might is subsequent enough?
Additional
follow-up, yeah.
Yeah, you could say any follow-up inspection or any subsequent.
Beyond the
inspection, following the second,
Yep. So we can add language to that, and if we pass this today, we can put that language in and get that confirmed. But so any subsequent inspection beyond the follow-up inspection.
As we're calling
the
it, the
initial
first
follow-up.
follow-up, which is really the second. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's fine.
When, so being that we talked about these rental inspections going into effect primarily next year, 26, when do these fees go into effect then?
The fees will be in effect immediately. And we do not anticipate waiting until next year to start this. We will be doing this as soon as we get the system up and running.
Yeah, DJ's off and running with organizing it and we're helping them out. So we're pushing them on this.
I mean, you're already under under the old one, you were already required to get inspections. This is just making it easier for us to get to you. Because before you had to reach out to us, and if you didn't reach out to us, we would have no idea if you ever switched tenants. Now we have a much clearer process, so we don't anticipate waiting. The only thing we're waiting on right now is, getting a system set up, custom system set up has taken some time and been a little more frustrating than we anticipated, so we're still working on that.
Do you have an estimate and general estimate of when that system would be?
No, but I will tell you that we will have a much better answer by the end of this month because we're making a hard decision at the end of this month if we're foregoing the company that we initially went with.
I asked that, I don't mean to ask a loaded question, but I do want to remind council that this was previously discussed and we said on the record that we would not be pursuing this ordinance effectively until 2026. That was publicly said.
Okay, I was not. Was that a meeting I wasn't at? Was that the meeting I wasn't
I
at?
believe so, yes.
Okay.
Well, what it was is the inspections. It would take us until January to start the inspections, and then the rental or these fees would be effective on January 1st. And part of that was we approved to go through with the motion to move forward with the rental inspections. And then we were going to revisit and talk about these going forward.
Okay, I think there seemed to be a misunderstanding at that meeting that we didn't already have rental inspections.
No, we knew
and
we
these
had
fees,
them.
okay.
Yeah, we knew we had them because they're in here for this.
Okay.
It's just not occurring as that they're only occurring in some.
Because they're so difficult to strap people down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna keep going. I appreciate the thorough breakdown of the estimated expenses. What are each of these numbers based on? Like when we say all in 30 minutes, is that that's a division of the time of the inspector?
Yeah,
who's
so
a borough
we
employee?
took the pay that the salary of the inspector, the time of breaking down the time of each thing and the direct expenses all broken down. So it was broken down based on first on salary and benefits.
Yep.
And then in prep time and whatnot. And then that's how we calculated the fees. So those are based on hourly pay rates.
Okay. So on the second page of the memo, it does have a breakdown, annual cost per unit. $18.33 is the annual cost per rental unit. That annual cost is lower than most comparables that we were able to identify. My concern is that with the estimated expenses, it does not allow for inflation or for additional changes in salary, which is what the estimated costs are based on. So in the event that any of those increased, we would then have to be taking the financial brunt of that. Now, it's great, it's small, granted, but we're talking about the difference of $5 from our current rental inspection. So my concern is if we're already well below some comparable averages for other boroughs our size that have similar rental inspection ordinances, that $5 contingency buffer could be helpful.
And remember, we approved this during the budget annually.
Yes.
So any of these can be changed annually.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Right, or if you notice.
Right, like now.
Going
Yeah.
up, we can
people
always.
say,
Mhm.
We need
Give
to
that.
increase it.
Okay,
because of
fair.
this Additional cost, right?
Okay.
Not to oversimplify, I think I was surprised to see that it did come down $5 from previous or what our current fee would be. Is the biggest difference, again, keeping it simple, that it's every 3 years?
Yes.
That's sort of the bigger, it was just making sure we have a way
Yeah.
to have tracking who is a landlord, who's in their property, and then every 3 years, regardless, because a person could stay there for 20, is it up to code, all those things. So this really is a way, again, like safety, that's what, in my mind, that's what this is about. It's the difference is
about
every 3
consistency.
years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about consistency, and it's, if landlords want to avoid us and don't want to tell us when they switch renters, it's very easy for them to do that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not like we're monitoring every street all the time, watching people moving in and out of houses. And so, and it's also, I think, key to note and I don't know if, the average tenure of people in an apartment is 4 years.
Mhm.
So, you'll have some that might stay 10 years and then they'll never get inspected, or 20 years and they'll never get inspected. And those tend to be elderly people. I mean, people who stay in apartments a long time tend to be older. And people who move more often tend to be younger. That's just the way things are. So you're putting that burden on the riskiest, most vulnerable people. So it's definitely better if you can do that more regularly. And, and it's also just much easier to manage, because if 1 year you only get 200 that switch and then the next year you get 1,000, that's on us to figure out how to make that work. We might have to hire a new person that year just to get those inspections done. Whereas if we have 600 every year, we have about 1,800 renters, 1,800 units is our understanding. So you can make that very consistent and just set it up that way, as opposed to having completely unpredictable how many people move in a given year.
So we do have a motion on the table. I think, looking at my notes, the ordinance did pass 6-1, and in chapter 90, so it's there. So then that's the question that we had at the meeting, and this was at the April 24th meeting, was the fee schedule. And what would be the effective dates of the fee schedule? Because the ordinance did pass, which would require in starting up all the inspections. So then it's looking at, and the feedback we got from folks was that it was too high now, because they're going to get inspected every 3 years, especially if they have a lot of apartments. So I think clarity on when the actual inspections, because I know that was something like Tedesco had said, that it was January. So do we have that clarity?
We're gonna send out the mailers for landlord registration, probably within the next month-ish. And we'll take that as an opportunity to educate all property owners on the ordinance as well, so that everybody's aware. I think it depends. In my head, for all practical purposes, this is just me talking, for all practical purposes, January 1st and forward is a great time to start full-blown implementation. But that doesn't mean we won't do inspections between now and then, because there are units that need
Right.
inspecting. So it can shift with whatever makes the most sense. And again, in my head, 2026 full-blown implementation makes sense.
Yeah. So if we change these fees, we're actually lowering our current fees a bit of where we are. Based on the fact that they would be ratcheting up at some point. Okay. All right, so we have the motion. Any other discussion or questions?
Yeah, based on what you said,
Yeah.
well, and we talked about with sending out mailers and notifying people and educating them. Is that registration date and the late fee date when that would be assessed, is that still going to be February then, or is that 30 days from whenever this now becomes or whenever, you know,
It's
if,
effective.
Yeah.
so
whatever
that
date
means starts the clock right now for that, for
No,
the.
no, because the date, the
Is
fee
always
date
then.
is always in February.
It's always
So it's still gonna be in February.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, and we can absolutely pass this with with an exception that this doesn't get, that we don't start doing this until January 1. My concern was, we've had lots of residents ask for better rental inspections. You know, we've had lots of people say, clean up these clean up these apartments, clean up these apartments. And this gets us started where we've heard a couple voices that ask us to make this less expensive. So I just want to make sure that I've heard a lot more complaints about rental inspection. I mean, about rental properties not kept up than I have from landlords about a $5 fee or, you know, a change in fee, but.
So this
just
will
throwing that out
essentially,
there.
this will give us more time to let people know and people can register before they hit that February date, whenever they could be assessed a late fee and then say that they didn't have a ton of time to find out about it. So we're giving people more time
Yeah, I
to
think
register.
it's nice to, if someone says, I didn't know.
Yep.
That doesn't fly when you've had July, August, September, October, November, like 7 months.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we can make sure to put it in every newsletter and make,
Yeah.
you know, and put it on socials and on as well. Yep.
So to that effect, if I'm just, my tenant leaves and I have to get an inspection, I'm going to now pay $55 rather than $60.
You're not gonna have an inspection.
No, because the tenant left.
No, and
We have a new ordinance. We
Yeah.
already have a new ordinance that's passed. That new ordinance is encoded and is not requiring an inspection when people switch over. So there will be no inspection. We are already on the new inspection process. So if you flip a unit, we won't be inspecting you.
Unless it's been 3 years, right?
Correct. Well, yes. Well, even though, no, we're not gonna start this until, if we're not starting this till January, there will be no rental inspections for the next 6 months. It doesn't make any sense to, you know, because then what are you working off of? They haven't registered, you know, yeah.
Well, then why don't we just wait until the fee resolution comes in play for next year?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Yeah.
There may be some rental inspections between now and January 1st for somebody who's a hot vendor who really needs.
Okay.
There it is.
Right, but-
Is gonna be changing this.
Yeah, but but that's not the law anymore.
Right.
Right.
So I want to be, so you shouldn't have to do one.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know, I wouldn't want someone who's responsible to pay and then the irresponsible people not to pay. If we're not, if the code already exists, the ordinance is already in place that you get an inspection every 3 years. So it's irregardless of whether you switch tenants at this point.
Right. So your responsibility now, Aaron, is to just register when you get the letter through the portal.
Right.
So we do have a motion on the table. Any other questions or discussion?
Let me just do a quick little recap.
Yeah.
Of what we're agreeing on, because I did hear someone say their head was spinning.
Yeah.
So I want to make
Yeah.
sure that we're crystal clear on what's going on here.
Yeah, so I could, basically, all this resolution today was just changing the fee. So we are, the law is still in place that you have to get inspected every 3 years. We just have not enforced that yet. And now it sounds like we're agreeing not to start enforcing that until January 1. And so that's part of this discussion. And then, if this fee resolution doesn't pass, then the fee is still $60 and 55, but no inspections are going to happen at this point if we agree not to start it until January 1. So basically, it just means rental inspections don't happen for the next 6 months. But I mean, they already weren't happening because we haven't started that new process yet.
Or alternatively, we could be directed to start inspections as soon as possible, so probably be before January 1st when we really get started in earnest.
But that would be an entirely different decision at this point. This is just fees, period.
Yeah, really, what the motion on the table is whether to accept these new fees or not.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
Whether or
all
not when
this
we
motion
want to
is.
start them would be a completely different motion, conversation, everything.
Yeah, that's basically directing, I mean, that's not a policy, that's basically just directing staff whether we do it or don't do it.
And by the time it goes forward, we will have a new fee resolution for next year.
Right.
that we will be.
The one thing I might remark on, based on, comments from property owners, if this gets passed now, they will have noticed that the fees are coming down and they'll be responding to that.
And it keeps it as part of a record that when we look at this next year, we don't have to remember everything we talked about today
Correct.
to say how it would be. Okay.
That's a great reason to pass it.
Good. Any more discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay.
All right, thank you. You're such a hearing me talk now. Next item, just a quick update on Fountain Street. We are now, there's an additional process that we're gonna go through with, I don't know if you want to explain that.
So we've attempted to have an administrative search warrant issued by our neighbor downstairs without success. So we're essentially appealing that decision to the Court of Common Pleas, which we learned today is something that nobody can recall happening in many years. So, and there's a lot of new folks up there. So we are filing a petition to enforce the administrative search warrant request. And that will be presented to Judge Regan. I don't know when, but it'll be, I'll say, give us a month probably. And we should have an answer one way or another, or hopefully something like that. But yeah, that's basically the process here, is that we're supposed to go to see Judge Regan and he will rule on whether or not we have established probable cause to enter the property. Which I think we've already done, but that's why we're appealing. So that's where that is. And it's, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Remind us what 11
Yeah,
Fountain
yeah.
Street is?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I was sure about the, so 11 Fountain Street is a condemned house that has been requested to be torn down. But as we've spoken many times, we'd rather rehab houses than tear them down because they don't get rebuilt. I mean, we have more than 78 properties currently in the borough that are vacant and could be rebuilt on, and people just don't do it. There's not, the economics are not there in Crafton at this time. And so we prefer saving the house if at all possible, which is why we're going through this process.
Right, we need to get in to assess property at this point.
Right. And it
It's
is
been
being
condemned,
correct.
right? So it's all closed up, but it hasn't been noticed for demolition because and again, that policy wise, I understand that's not where we go, but you can't make an assessment of whether it can be saved or it should be demolished until you get inside and see what's happening.
Yeah, and there are three potential options to save it. One would be conservatorship, which we are actively working on at 82 Belvedere. The other option is have it go through the vacant property recovery program, which has, we think a resident has applied for that. So we think that is also currently happening. So that's potential that will save the house. The third option is using a land bank process, which we are considering as well. And that's a great reminder that we will be having a land bank presentation probably in July, probably early July. And asking for a resolution to be passed regarding joining that land bank, because that's another way to save properties that are dilapidated and need to be saved. So.
Bishop Cog have a land bank. Shore Valley Cog.
No, it's, we're going through Tri-Cog. We'll be going through Lewis's land bank. Yep.
And this is just, again, the owner is just MIA, like.
Yeah, they've been we haven't contact, I don't think there's been contact with the owner since 2019.
Okay.
So, and that's standard.
Yeah.
Typically most of these happen when either someone passes away or someone just leaves because they can't afford the house anymore, and then they don't do anything with it. And property laws are really difficult and really in the favor of the property owner. So, which understandably, you don't want people just claiming property. So it's very difficult to wrest the property away from a previous owner, even if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. All right, great. The next item is a Clearview Trail update. I want to sincerely apologize to everybody who wants to use the Clearview Trail. We as far as I know, we still have one downed wire. I don't know if anybody, I haven't checked it in the last 2 days, so I don't know if it's, if that is true or not. I think Public Works has now cleaned the upper portion of the trail and it is open. And that just happened in the last couple of days and took much longer than we had anticipated, mainly because of so many issues at the pool and other issues that were tying them up. But we do have that portion of the trail opened, but we are still waiting on Duquesne Light to finish pulling down the last pole and the last cable. There, it is not connected to anything but one street light, so it is very low on their priority list, which is why they didn't get to it. Now we've just been given the runaround. We've been talking to our liaisons there, and we haven't been getting calls back and whatnot. So we're not sure what's going on there. But hopefully I have a better answer for you. Hopefully it's taken care of by next week, but I don't want to make any promises.
PUC complaint.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea.
Who does that?
That'd be good.
File like an informal complaint on the Public Utility Commission.
Okay.
They don't like those.
Yeah.
And they usually move quickly. I've had them fix a sidewalk and all kinds of things within like.
That's great. I didn't thought of that.
So-
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Oh, I did want to mention one other thing that did not make the agenda, but will be on next week's next agenda, and that is we did have a request from a resident to do an internship as a part of their master. I think it's a master gardener class or I can't remember exactly what the class was. I don't have the information in front of me, but she wants to do an internship of developing signage for the Clearview Trail, historic signage. I think it's a great opportunity. It's basically she would be creating like historic signage talking about how it used to be the Pitway trolley line and maybe showing, and she can do several different things. She would also talk about the vegetation that's around there and what's native. And it would be relatively minimal cost to the borough to put up signage, but we could include that in next year's budget as well. But she wants to do, I think she has to do 300 hours of volunteer time. And she's offering to do that for the borough. So I will provide better information next time, and I would like to ask for a vote to accept her as an intern with the idea that we might eventually put signage up on the trails. And it's perfect coinciding with the trail project that's already going on, and I had talked to her about that, and she was excited that it would be even more widespread, that she could do signs for all of them. So just wanted to update with everybody with that, and that concludes my report.
Right. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Tedeschi.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The first item on your agenda from me is a business action item. This is the Ewing Road lot line revision application. And I have a brief slideshow on this. Lot line revisions are subject to chapter 197 of our code, which is about 35 pages of fun related to subdivisions and land development. Fortunately, lot line revision is the easiest pathway within this chapter of the code. So it's the easiest application procedurally to move forward. And I will also mention that the subdivision and land development code, chapter 197, is not the zoning code. This is a separate thing than zoning. This is lot lines and how they're drawn. So it's a separate process than zoning. So quickly, let me give you some context, and then I'll talk about where we're at in the process. But we're at the end of the process. You can see on the screen, we're the blue dot in the middle, right by Serafino's, as we all know. And down here on Ewing Road, roughly at the intersection of DeSoto, are the two properties in question. And I'll zoom into those two properties right here. It's this northerly parcel that there is a request to move the lot line, and here comes the real magic in the presentation. The lot line moves. And contextually, the purpose behind this application is so they can build a home and a detached garage on the site. Their neighbor, the southerly parcel, is the mom and mom-in-law of the household. So she is very agreeable to this. They're going to be neighbors. contextually, all of the homes along Ewing are at the bottom of the hill. That's the way this home will be as well, but this isn't an application to build a home. This is an application to move the property line. So the home building permit is a separate process that happens after this consideration. It has been, so we got the application in late February, the full application. And the code requires me to circulate it to various parties, our engineering firm being one of them for review. And then planning commission considers the application upon everybody's review. So that happened. Gateway Engineers had a little over half a dozen recommendations that were all minor in nature. Revisions to these technical drawings. So the planning commission passed the application and is recommending it for approval from council on the condition of accommodating Gateway Engineers' recommendations. The applicants accommodated the recommendations. Gateway Engineers then rechecked the entire application and said, yes, we are clear for takeoff with Borough Council. If you want to check out the full application packet, it is on the drive. It's got all the technical stuff in there. And is this when I should read the motion and then you guys can talk about it? Or
I'd just like to add one thing that this process actually started in April of last year is when they first reached out to us.
Yes.
Yep. So it's been now a little over a year and 3 months.
Yes,
2
and I will also mention, this is a request of the applicants. Apparently, they were talking to some neighbors and there's some misconception that this is a borough project to move the line and to build a house. It is not. This is an applicant-driven process. And because these are so rare with the borough, I mean, misunderstandings are, we get it. This is kind of a new thing. In larger, busier boroughs and cities, this is the sort of thing that goes on the consent agenda because it's just kind of normal business. So with that, I'll read the motion really quick. A motion to approve the Heath Papenchek and Becky Bickford lot line revision application submitted by Tate Engineering, Inc., located on Ewing Road as reviewed by Gateway Engineers in their letters dated May 21, 2025 and April 25, 2025, and recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on April 29, 2025.
So moved.
Mr. Koenig,
Second.
Mr. Hope. Questions or discussion? Right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Moving along, Business Development Subcommittee just met at 6 o'clock tonight and Kennedy, our intern, raise your hand, Kennedy. I don't know if everybody's met him. He's helping with that committee. We have a mixer, business owner, property owner, landlord, mixer scheduled for July 24th at Fig Tree. So there's active planning for that. In addition, we're actively planning for some window stickers, clings, thank you, window clings with a QR code and a shop local campaign. And then there'll be another party mixer planned for fall with business owners and landlords. So that's what's happening right now with the Business Development Committee. Quick website update. As we all know, the website is live and Google is reading it. We're actually getting some organic traffic on the site. And we know this from Google Analytics on the back end, and we're getting form submittals from residents from the website. So that's good. The old website is still up and Google still prefers it. So it's still kind of the active website. To transition to the new website fully, it takes a couple settings, changes in server settings, and all traffic that wants to go to the old website will be automatically directed to the new website, and Google will the website will shoot up the ranks of search engines very, very quickly after that. I feel like I'm missing something on this topic.
Communication, because I don't think people knew that it's changed, because it is, if you do Google Crafton Borough, it comes up with the old website.
Yes, yes.
So I don't think, what was the communication that went out?
We didn't, it's still a soft launch. This is only, this was only launched for council members, but it was a lot launched, but it just never was advertised.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, thank you for that. And the purpose behind the soft launch was to test functionality,
Yeah.
which we have done, and it's passing the test. So. So, I mean, it's really, I guess it comes down to when Jim is comfortable, directing Dennis, our IT guy, to change the settings on the servers and start pointing it all
So there were
together.
a few more tests on the permit page I want to check, but we can probably approve that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're very close.
Cause I think, wasn't the recommendation to do this live over the weekend, like over a weekend?
Yeah, start on like a Friday night.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So we can, if everybody is fine with it, as long as we check those last couple permit issue, like it's the functionality, it's, the things that are interactive are the things that are more challenging. I can take a look at the things that I still had sticking in my mind, that we can check tomorrow and go live tomorrow night, maybe.
It's one of those things, though, I think, even though you could check every single thing, you're gonna get, this page isn't working, and so just give it some grace and it'll all be fine. Just any of those IT tech changes, take a moment.
Yeah.
Will the development or the web developer be aware of that so that if there are things that we realize functionally maybe need a tweak, that they're aware that we might be calling on them in the short term?
Yes.
To let them know heads up, like
Stand up.
we might find some last minute item.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Maybe moving along to the next topic. Planning Commission meets on June 24th. Pretty hot meeting. They're going to consider recommending the zoning code be moved along to Borough Council. So it's an open public meeting. Everybody's invited. There's one topic on the agenda, and it is consideration of the zoning code by the Planning Commission.
Before you move on, I just wanted to say, I'm assuming might be you, Jim, the communication on Facebook. I really appreciate your Q&As that you have been doing. I think they're very beneficial and helpful. So thanks for, I don't want to assume how you're doing it, whether you're looking at the master doc of all the frequently asked questions or the things that you're getting, especially from Planning Commission. I think they're really helpful. So I know Facebook is where people like to consume information. So hopefully they are looking at that and taking that as fact from the source. So I think that they're very helpful, the Q&As that have been posted from the borough.
Thank you. And then finally, 82 Belvedere conservatorship. I'm waiting on one last quote to clear out the junk from the home. And junk, there's a lot of junk. There's junk on every floor. So clearing out the junk, pulling the carpets up with the tacks, even some what I'd characterize as light demolition in the kitchen, cabinets, stuff like that, the things that are easy to take off. One last quote, and then we'll get that moving, and that will be very helpful. And then Jim and I still need to talk about, probably with Steve, how to get a proper RFQ out for a construction team to take a look at things and get that ball moving.
Great.
And that's the first home that we're doing with this approach to this conservation.
Conservatorship.
Thank you, conservatorship. Okay.
That's correct.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Right, standing committee reports, Finance Administration and Sustainability, Mr. Ho.
Thank you. The Finance Administration and Sustainability Committee has not met since the last council meeting. We will be meeting before the next one, so I will have a report then. So unless there's any questions, that is the end of my report.
Great, thank you. Infrastructure and land use, Mr. Price.
Not much updates here either. We have not received the energy audit yet. There was a piece of information that they still needed. I think I said that last time. We got it to them about 3 weeks ago. So we do anticipate seeing that soon. Maybe it was 4 weeks ago because the last meeting was 3 weeks ago. And then the DCED grant, we did find out that we weren't able to move that money. I think we announced that last time as well. Larry's been pretty tied up with some of the other grant requirements that he's been on. So we really haven't moved forward, but that is the next step, to have a kind of an informal design, a conceptual design laid out. So we can talk about real numbers, talk about installation costs and what that'll look like. And then we'll bring that back to council for consideration, or even we might bring it first to the infrastructure committee and then to council for consideration on how to move the project forward and go out to bid. That concludes my infrastructure and land use report.
All right, communication and recreation, Ms. Bolenbacher.
Our next upcoming event is our 4th of July celebration, which will be incidentally on Friday, July 4th from 4 till about 10 o'clock. Fireworks are scheduled to start about 9:30. Our entertainment will be Smoke and Mirrors for the 3rd time, the 3rd year in a row. Entertainment includes face painting, balloon art, petting zoo, inflatable obstacle course, spin art. Our food will include funnel cakes, Pittsburgh crepes, the Pittsburgh crepe truck, Roy's pizza truck, Twisted Lemonade truck. Crafton Boy Scouts will be selling pop and water, and Back Alley Brewing will also be taking part in the celebration. So come on. And the rec board is asking please for a couple volunteers for the 4th of July. If you're going down to celebrate with them, why not give them an hour or two of your time for all the work that they put in for these kind of events? It would be incredibly appreciated. If you're able to spare any time that day, please just email them at the Borough's site. They would be incredibly appreciative. Our other upcoming events, which I'll have more detail as we get closer, is Fall Fest, Saturday, September 27th. They added a new event, which is going to be a 21 and over Halloween mini golf event. That will be, I think, slated for Saturday, October 11th. I will have more detail as that comes. We, of course, also have our Celebration of Light, Saturday, December 6th, and our Holiday House Tour on Sunday, December 14th. They are also already recruiting for houses for the Holiday House Tour. So if you have one of our beautiful homes, we would love to see it. So please let us know. We have some new ongoing events in the community. We have yoga and meditation in the park. It is free for everybody, and it is Saturdays at 10 a.m. They started, I believe, last Saturday was the first one, and they will run through August. May go longer depending, but right now they're slated for August.
Yeah. And Erin, I don't want to interrupt.
No, please.
If we all know it's been pretty icky weather, if the weather is not looking good, we will do our best to give at least 30 minutes heads up of a cancellation, but it was yucky last Saturday, so they were able to use the stage. So that is our backup plan. We have the backup plan, but just in case it's two or something happens with our instructor, we will do our best to post any cancellations.
Thank you. Yep. Now, mini golf is also open for the season. It'll be Fridays and Saturdays. From 6 to 9. I forgot to write the time. I think it's 6 to 9.
So I think it's 7,
Thank
yeah.
you. It is $2 a round. So go ahead and take advantage of that inexpensive evening. I wish Miss Murphy was still here to know that one. I could have let her know about that one as well. Now that our pool is finally open, because Mother Nature has been kind, they are offering aqua aerobics every Monday and Thursday evening at 8 p.m. That started, or I believe that started last week. It's $5 a class, and that also will run through August, weather permitting. They will also be offering group swim lessons this year, and that will be for ages 4 and up, and they are for all levels. There are multiple session dates available. The sessions are $60 per person, but if you have multiple family members, each additional family member will be $40 a piece. So if you want to look at those dates, please go to the Borough website to get some group lessons in. And again, not just 4th of July, but volunteers are always needed for these wonderful events. So give us a hand. Go to the Borough website and sign up to be a volunteer. Our newsletter went out this week. Will go out next week.
The 23rd-ish.
The 23rd-ish, okay. So we have a little more time. You should be getting that the last week of June. So hopefully that'll be out and ready to roll. And unless anybody has any questions, that's it for me. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
At 4th of July, Independence Day, will our current chief of police,
Yes.
Sumner, still be in there and incoming?
Sorry.
As I mentioned at a previous meeting, just before the entertainment starts, which I understand will be about 6 p.m. We'll be saying our farewell to Chief Sumter, and we will be formally swearing in our new chief, Rick Ford.
It's awesome. Thank you for that reminder. Yes.
Good, thank you, Ms. Bombacher. Board Commission recruiting, Ms. Polkowna.
Short and sweet tonight. We currently have just one position available. That is our Civil Service Commission. It's an alternate seat. We have an interested applicant. We're working through some things, but that is currently our only vacancy that we have at this time. Upcoming later down the year, we will have our zoning hearing board. We'll have a regular and an alternate seats becoming available. That is down the road. So I know we've actually talked a little bit today about, well, I think it was, as you said, her name already, was it Miss, let's say Murphy, it wasn't Ms., what's her name? Hold on, I wrote it down. Ms. Murphy, yes. It was alluded to about all of our meetings are open. So if you are interested and want to learn more about any of these involvement on one of our committees or our boards, all these meetings are public. Please come. They're all posted the time. So if you're thinking about it, but you're just not sure which one might be the best fit for you, come to any one of these meetings just to get a feel for it. But right now, we are in good shape.
Great. Right, Council of Government, COG, Ms. Bombacher.
The only announcement is the next meeting will be next Thursday, June 19th at 6:30. It will be in Carnegie. It is the last meeting before summer break. Again, I'm taking guests if anybody wants to join. Let me know because I have to RSVP. This is the last one for the summer, so they give away prizes. And they always seem to.
Right. Community announcements. All right, our next council meeting is Thursday, June 26th at 7 o'clock. Pool passes are available. The pool is open. And we have resident rates for Crafton and Carnegie, Ingram, Roslyn Farms, and Thornburg go at non-residence rates. Then we have child, adult, senior, or family pool passes. 4th of July, we already talked a lot about that. It begins at 4 o'clock, runs till 10 in Crafton Park. Lots of activities, food trucks, lots of things for the kids, and the face painting and zoo and all that stuff. And then the celebration for Chief Sumner's retirement at 6 o'clock and the swearing in of Chief Ford at 6 o'clock also. And then the fireworks will happen at dusk, usually around 9:30. Right. Anybody else have any announcements? Do we want to mention anything about fireworks for the residents at all, based on what we passed several years ago? In there, or maybe we can put that for the.
Don't set them off.
Yeah. In the ordinance, I believe we said that
Oh,
you're
that's
not,
right.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. I was like, that little smile, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was.
So, yes, there was an ordinance passed to comply with state ordinances, and I may have to have Steve help us with this, but
I think didn't have to be
150 feet away from any structure.
There are
So
very,
there's
very
a
few
only
locations in
places-
the borough that you should be firing fireworks off.
Exactly.
Particularly in your backyard, probably not gonna work.
Exactly.
We're talking commercial, like sparklers or stuff.
Yeah,
Right, we are talking, you know, those people who get a trailer full of commercial fireworks and put them off all night. So if you have an issue with people in your neighborhood doing that, please call 911 and our officers will respond.
Right. All right. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council. You may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor was our assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So anybody in person, James?
Yes, James Mangan, 96 Sterrett Street. I'm just here again to ask about in front of my house, that main street, Sterrett Street. People run the stop signs both from the Pittsburgh side and coming from the Crafton side going into Pittsburgh. The speed limit's currently 25 miles an hour. It seems like most people seem to be trying to get up to 25 miles as fast as they possibly can. So although they might not appear to be speeding, they are accelerating rather rapidly. More and more kids are moving into my neighborhood. The ones that live up Rushway are getting bigger. They're now riding their scooters down Rushway Alley, which is fun. They're not my kids, so I can't, tell them to stop. But I wouldn't want to see a kid flying out and having a car running that stop sign coming up. There was talk about a stop bar that hasn't happened. There was talk about another kind of like, traffic calming thing that hasn't happened. There was a back, I think Phil Lavasser pitched a bump out to help kind of slow things down when they first designed or redesigned my street. That hasn't happened. I've been here for many years now asking about the same kind of thing. Nothing really has happened. The police don't really sit there and track it. I get that it's part Pittsburgh, but a whole bunch of kids play there, and it's only getting more populated with kids, which is a good problem to have. But I would suggest either A, lowering the speed limit, putting in a speed bump of some sort, or installing some potholes. So.
All right. Any responses?
You on that stopping?
No, we have 2 officers on duty at any time. And the directive over the last number of months, and we continue to reiterate it on the log, is to circulate around, to be monitoring more of the problem areas that we're hearing about. Aside from that, what I can always do is when we hear a specific street, we can ask for a little more coverage, which we will do. Beyond that, you've talked about the fact that there's not a lot we can do more signage wise because of it being in the city. And that it's just a really, really tough situation.
And that's we can and will do the stop bar. I apologize if the stop bar has not yet happened. That's
what I thought.
Yeah, that's largely a portion of just, I think I said that 2 or 3 meetings ago, and our guys have been just bombarded with issues. I mean, we had the storm, which basically took up 3 weeks of time, the pool, and this is generally the worst time. This is the time that is most difficult for Public Works because everything starts growing. They don't have summer help yet. They don't get summer help typically until June 1st. And they just now have gotten that, which is why they caught up with the Clearview Trail and why they caught up with clearing out the bump outs. So now we'll make sure that this gets on their list, that this is on their list for next week. So hopefully it'll get done next
So
week.
basically,
Typically,
saying we have
what?
a bump, whatever you call
A
it.
stop bar.
Stop bar.
Basically, it's just a very good visual cue that they need to be stopping at each of those locations. People tend to be less likely to roll through things when they see a more official layout.
Thank you.
And on a busy street like that, it definitely will help. And we could probably get it at all 4. I think there are 3 places to put it on that street. So, I mean, typically that's the type of stuff Public Works tends to do all at the same time. So they don't do these until they have a bunch of them to do. But we'll make sure that this gets prioritized. And I apologize that it hasn't been done yet.
Go into reducing the speed limit.
Well, you can't. And this is, even though we do have streets that are marked 20 and 15 miles an hour, the chief will tell you that you really can't even enforce those because you cannot ticket someone until they're going, because we're not allowed to have radar in Pennsylvania. We're the only state again. So call your legislators, tell them to allow radar in Pennsylvania. It's one of the most difficult issues we deal with. When you have radar, you can give tickets going 4 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. When you don't have those and you're only using the fast car lines, they have to be going at least 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. And you can't have, my understanding is that if there are speed limits under 25, it's not enforceable. So it might signal to a community that to go slower, but it doesn't actually have the effect when you go to enforce it. So it doesn't do much, it might at first, but then over time, people tend to go 25 miles an hour. We found that same thing on Broadhead. We just put a sign on Broadhead is marked 20 and it's officially in the code as 20, but they don't write tickets until you go 35 miles an hour. So it kind of,
Because we don't have radar, we can't assume that they're going.
yeah. So it's one of these legal loopholes that makes it really difficult for us to enforce the law. Yeah, not my field.
You're
but-
right,
but-
no, you're right all the way along.
Yeah,
We've talked
so-
about this
Yeah.
many, many times.
Yeah, so that, there's not a ton we can do in lowering the speed limit, other than having a visual effect doesn't really do anything.
Was there any, not value's not the right word. What about like the signs, like children at play or any of those signs? I mean, is that like a borough thing or the person can't put their
Oh,
own?
no, we could put those up.
I mean, I'm trying to think, sometimes you're in certain neighborhoods, whether
Yep.
an individual has hearing impairments or visual, I've seen those signs. So I didn't know if any about, if there are a lot of kids up there and it's summertime, regardless what season it is. I mean, maybe just a visual, I shouldn't be a jerk and fly through this street kind of thing would be helpul.
Are there any signs that say that? Don't be a jerk.
It's a lot of letters. It's a lot to read. It's a lot to
It
read.
might get more attention.
Yeah. You just do hand gestures. I don't know. It's just a lot to read.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we can definitely look into getting those.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Yeah, Ben.
Hi, Ben Belmont, 270 West Steuben Street. I had a thought on that. Could you possibly paint caution on the street?
I don't know, what is our? Yeah.
I mean, if it's on our side, we probably could if we wanted to, but I'm pretty sure that's not like a PennDOT approved.
Right.
Like traffic control device or method. So there is a risk of losing liquid fuels money for that, but I've seen a lot of communities do a lot of things, so. Painting caution is probably not one that they're too worried about.
I wonder if, I know that a common thing for traffic calming is to paint the intersection, with an interesting design, just and it's not, it can be attractive, but it also does tend to slow people down. It does have that effect, so.
Yeah.
That could be another thing.
PennDOT allows those things.
What's that?
PennDOT does allow that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what the cost of one of those would be.
Maybe checkerboard that the kids can then do hot stuff.
I don't know if you want to do
Sounds
it on
great.
building.
Like the middle of the street up there.
I don't know that we want to. Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, bad mayor,
Yeah.
bad mayor.
Anybody else? Karen?
Karen Tomczyk, 50 Park Street. My question was about the engineering report on the Broadway sewer separation program. In this handout here, it says that full sidewalks and curbs will be replaced. But in your slide, it did not mention curbs on any of the streets. So are they gonna replace the curbs or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had done this before I had gone back and re-looked at I had put out the agenda before I re-looked at some of the issues. Curbs are gonna be done. The reason curbs aren't listed on the one on the display was when you do full construction, you have to do curbs.
Okay.
So curbs are included in everything that's full reconstruction. And I think that means that curbs are on new curbs, except for on the alley and on Broadhead. I think new curbs are happening on every other street. Yep.
And I have another question. What was the work, what happened at the pool?
There was,
Oh, yeah, let her go and then, yeah, go ahead.
That's all.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
yeah. There was we have to do a 3-year electrical inspection. And luckily we caught it right before. Typically it happens by the health department in the middle of the year, but you always want to do your own so that you're prepared. And we did do our own just before the pool opened, and that's a 3-year electrical inspection. There is a conduit wire that runs around the entire outside of the pool that essentially guarantees that there's no electrical current flowing through the pool. You want to get a 0 reading on that, and we got a negative reading, which means that there was some negative current flowing through the pool or throwing through one, and it was very, very minor. But anything around electricity, you want to be incredibly cautious about. They'll fail you even and it could be as much as a grain of sand in between one piece of metal that is not allowing it to ground perfectly. And so we had to reinstall. We reinstalled essentially every ladder. Every ladder that attaches to the pool has a piece that connects to that grounding wire. And they were compromised at some point the ones that were installed originally were plastic or something, plastic and some other combination. Now they're all brass. We basically upgraded them, so they're not ever gonna go bad again. But that was and that took a solid 2 days of the entire team doing concrete work and whatnot to replace, plus waiting for the parts to come in and all that stuff. So.
Anyone else? Sandy?
Sandy Moore, 1781 Bar Avenue. Just curious, you guys were all talking about the paving on Crafton Boulevard. But if you look at your road paving as part of the Broadhead Sewer Project, Crafton Boulevard's not listed.
That, again, remember when I said I'd gone back and looked at it, that was a mistake.
Oh, okay. I was
Yep.
just like,
Yep.
it's not on the list.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Right?
Yeah, I have two questions. First off, James Mangan has been up here 3 years trying to get some kind of traffic calming on his front street. And why can't we just put a speed hump in there? Why is there such a pushback on just putting a speed hump in there? Is it illegal? Is it what? Please give us a good reason why we cannot put a speed hump on that street. And my second question is that has there been any more discussion with the school board or anybody else about the Linden Avenue property? So, thank you very much.
All right, any thoughts on a speed bump?
Well, I can give the first two. Speed bumps are usually put in where there's speeding is a problem. Speeding is not proven to be a problem there. Acceleration sounds like it's a problem. So this is the first time that we've been asked based on that being the issue, the acceleration being the issue. We went up and tested it based on speeding, and it was clear that there was not speeding wasn't an issue. So I think it's unfair to say that we have not done anything. We've done several things. We've investigated as we were asked to investigate, and as we investigate every speeding issue in the borough, which we've done. Now I guess it's a separate request for a speed bump now that we know the speeding is an issue, but it's the issue of accelerating from one to the next without regard to what's around you. We can certainly, I mean, that's up to council whether they want to ask to put one in there, but that's why I haven't recommended it to date, because we were concerned about speeding. We looked at it. There wasn't a speeding problem, both with the sign off and with it. I mean, with the sign showing the display and with it showing it without. And typically when we did this on Crafton Boulevard, we had some 30% on average of drivers speeding. On average, and at peak speed, there were something like 40 or 50% go peak speed. Their peak speed is well above the average. We had almost none on Sterrett. So the data did not show that they're speeding. Now, the perception on a 25-mile-an-hour street, when someone is actually going 25 miles an hour right next to your kid, yeah, it looks a lot faster. It's a busy street. It's a well-traveled access point to Crafton. So we didn't think there was, we still don't, there's not an speeding issue, but it sounds like there's the acceleration issue is now the concern.
When was that data gathered?
It was over a period of 2 months. I think it was earlier this year or late. I think it was earlier this year. I think it was in March of this year, February of this year. I'm not sure.
Is there a cost to the borough to do
No, we move them around regularly. So we have 2 units that we move. You have to put batteries in or whatever, but you move them around and you check and you pull the data and you analyze it. We do it periodically. We're doing it. I think we have one on Broadhead right now, and I think we're moving one or have moved one to Ewing. We want to check it. Also, it's a great way to count traffic flow because it does give you the total number of traffic units that go by in a day. We're using it. We want to see what is happening in regards to CIT fields and when they're busy, when they're doing like how many people are actually using that roadway. So we want to track that right now. We have a request. I forget who gave me a request for somewhere. I think John, was it you gave me a request for somewhere else?
Yeah.
No, but there was something, I think there was another one I think there was another request pending. And I don't recall where that one is. So we get a list, and Larry just keeps a list of where they're pending. So I think we have 2 or 3 pending right now, but we'll get it, we'll move it again. That's
Do we just have one of those units?
two. And you do want to leave them, we typically at least a week to collect a good amount of data. 2 to 4 weeks is better. 2 weeks allows you to do 1 week with the sign on, 1 week with it off, because it does definitely has an effect. And so we've been kind of moving it around and trying to figure it out.
So if I can ask a question here, I understand the desire, and we have listened, we've, struggling and that sort of thing, but everybody wants speed humps. Everybody. You got no idea how many requests we get. And there are costs to it. And the other thing is my understanding is those tend to be used on long straightaways.
Right.
And up on Sterrett, you've got a series of stop signs that really force, we understand the issue of running stop signs. We need to get coverage up there to be monitoring that. But it just doesn't seem, as much as there's a desire for give us a speed hump, it's really not a location that warrants the typical kind of road that you would put a speed hump. I'm sorry to say, but that's really the situation as well.
And I think we need to be clear too, that residents can make requests. We can't do every request that residents come with. So that's part of just being council people, and we get lots of requests for everything, and we can't address all of them. I think
We have been very sensitive to the idea that, there are issues up there, and we've tried a number of things. And, we'll keep working on it. And as you said, we're gonna do the lines, right?
Yep.
So, and we'll see how that goes.
I do like the idea of trying to put the reader, I'm gonna call it a reader, up. Because I like the seasonality of it. Like if you had sort of like late, kind of like the icky time of year, but now it's like summer, basically summer when it would be up there. So I think that would be a different type of data to collect.
Yep, agree. And I'll have to look, it might even, I don't know, it gives you averages, so it might actually even give you acceleration. I'm not entirely sure. I could look to see if that is something that it does. But I'm not entirely sure if it does.
Then the other question was the school board. Again, any communication with the school board is basically creating a relationship with them. We both own the property, portions of the property, and it's creating a relationship, and that's where we are now. Anything that would be moving forward on the school board, that would be part of a public discussion that we would have. And it's creating the relationship with those members. And that's where we are with it.
I think James had another remark.
Just to clarify, the here,
Mhm.
the box, the speed box manual says to have it off for the first segment and then have it turned on. The one that was installed by me had it turned on first and then off the second. So I'm not sure if that like changes the data, but that's certainly something. And I know that there's a sign by my parents' house. And there's this kind of like that, there's a little box that just says like, it like flashes slow down if you hit like 25.
Yeah.
And it's a nice reminder that, hey, I should be slowing down. Now, a kid got hit there, so that's why the sign's there. My goal would be, let's avoid the first payment. And then,
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good to note that those, I think we might advise buying those type in the future, because we learned on Crafton Boulevard, I would be surprised, I would not be surprised to find out that people tried to get their speed up to see how fast they could get the sign to go, because it does show you how fast you're going. And down Crafton Boulevard, we had people going 60, 70 miles an hour, down the peak speeds were 60 and 70 miles an hour.
Well, I don't think that's.
We shouldn't
Yeah.
fix those potholes.
I've lived there for
Okay.
35 years.
Anybody else?
There's a reason that they like that stop sign.
Okay, anybody online, please raise your hand.
There's
Cody Sheets.
Cody, you should be hot.
All right, everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I just wanted to add on to what we were saying about this speed bump. I don't think that this, from what I am understanding here, this isn't really about acceleration. This is about people not stopping at a stop sign that isn't within Crafton Borough. It's right on the edge. And so one of the questions is, can the device that we're talking about, can it tell whether people are not stopping at a stop sign? And even if it could, is it able to be placed in an area that's in the borough where we're legally able to make those, or where we're legally able to set those devices up? And as far as the just the speed bump in general, like, even though it's not a typical street, I think it was the mayor that said it's just not a typical street where these things go up. This is kind of like an extenuating circumstance, because we're talking about kids coming down a hill that intersects with Sterrett Street right there. And, we're talking about scooters and stuff like that. Mr. Mangan just mentioned, a kid getting hit in another area on his parents' street. So it's just like, is it worth it to avoid that? Is it worth it to just like potentially save lives or injuries just by creating a speed bump in that area? And what would the costs be if we were to do that internally? Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any response?
The regarding whether it judges stops, it does not. In fact, when we first put it on Sterrett Street, we put it too close to the stop sign, so all it showed was people. I think the average speed was like 13 miles an hour because it didn't catch at all when they had sped up. And so we put it basically right next to the stop sign, moving it down one so that you actually caught them in the whole stretch. So no, we cannot assess that. There's nothing with that. As far as costs are concerned, they range depending on what type of speed bump is installed. They range from speed bumps to speed humps to speed tables. They all have kind of different purposes and reasons for existing. Most likely on this type of situation, you'd probably build a speed hump or a speed table that is the least damaging to cars, but also does a good job of slowing them down. They are also the more expensive ones. You would have to, typically, if you want them, Public Works can do them. I don't know that they have. They're best done by a paving company. And so they would be potentially part of like next year's paving project if you were going to do them. I don't know. I don't have a ballpark on what they cost. I would assume probably in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, but that's a complete guess. I don't know. Do you have? Yeah.
I can recall.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anybody else online? All right, seeing none, meeting is adjourned at 9:32.